Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to Coruscant Radio Underground. I got confused there because I couldn't hear my intro music because I don't have the headphones on. But
yeah,
I guess since we don't have a guest tonight, I don't need them. So we're gonna give everybody a minute to trickle in here because I think some of the promo stuff that went out today might have had the wrong time on it. Has us starting an hour from now. Which is actually DJ from the Red 5 Network will actually be going live at 7. So we're going to do our best to wrap up. So we don't want to take too long to get started. We'll give it a minute to see if anybody trickles into the chat here. DJ's actually here. Hey, man, welcome.
How's it going?
And we'll be sure as we wrap up this evening to plug what you've got coming up you're at 7, correct? We want to plug that on our way out, especially since y'all just put that up. Amanda has joined us in the chat. Welcome. People starting to trickle in. Our new friend Andrew has joined the chat.
Yeah, got to keep the Andrew count up.
Yeah, you got to have a high Andrew count. It's kind of like midichlorians. But so while we wait just a second, here you go.
Impressive.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Charles liked it.
She's been getting around. Oh, come on.
I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's still out there flying through space somewhere. It's the Star Wars canon.
Yeah. That tracks.
All right. So, JT's actually, I don't know if JT's ever joined our chat before, but welcome. Thanks for stopping by.
It's like Space Mary Poppins.
Wow, Charles. I'm so ready for Cornetto trilogy trivia with Charles. That's coming up real soon. We got to set a date. We're still looking for one more to play. So if anybody in the chat knows anybody that might want in on some Cornetto trilogy trivia, which if you're not aware is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. It's now canon that KK is canon. Yes.
Literally.
Yep. KK has been fired out of the Star Wars canon.
Yeah.
It all works.
Yeah.
All right. So as always, this time it's not our fault that we're covering. Before I really get going here, I just want to give an announcement that if we just suddenly disappear from this stream, it's raining for the first time in 3 months. And a tree already fell on a house down the street.
True.
And so I don't know. It's not that bad out, but just if the power already flickered off one. So just if we do disappear, we will try to come back. It'll obviously, I guess, have to be a different stream. Although I'm not totally sure how the Streamlabs Talk Studio app handles that. It might let us come right back in. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that. And if you're new here, which everybody here looks like they're pretty much aware of what we do, but this will be all spoilers. So if you, for some reason, haven't watched Ahsoka yet, if you don't care about spoilers, stick around, but otherwise we're going to spoil it all.
All the things. Yeah.
So, all right. So I guess we'll jump right in and get going since what was that? No, can't answer that phone call right now.
Nope.
So Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2, we normally don't like to cover 2 episodes at once. It happens sometimes. This is basically like covering, it's a movie length.
Yeah.
57 minutes and 44 minutes. So, not a lot of movies that length made today, but they used to all be that length.
Yeah. Some really great ones made that length.
Yeah. So, just to start us off, I've got like 4 pages of notes here. I don't usually make notes. We're going to see how that works out. But overall, just initial thoughts. What did you think about the episode?
I really enjoyed the episode. So the first time I watched, some of the other series, I kind of got done with it, and I was like, maybe I'll like it better the second time. And some of them I did, but this one I really enjoyed. The first time, and I may find more things to pick apart about it the more I watch it, but the initial watch through I really enjoyed.
I mean, I don't think it's like a perfect series, like perfect episodes. I mean, they're pretty good. JT, as far as your thank you for subscribing, and as far as the getting stabbed with the saber, at first it wasn't to the chest, it's to the side.
I mean, Darth Maul got cut in half.
Exactly. Like, I mean, we have people that took a lot worse damage that came back. So I'm not that worried. It's a fantasy story. Yeah. I'm not that worried about it.
It's like, I was like, that's a little bit of a stretch. But again, like I said, they cut Darth Maul in half and then brought it back. So it's like definitely not definitely not too much more outlandish than a spider leg Darth Maul. I'd have to say, not my favorite thing that Star Wars has ever done.
That's the funny thing about the Darth Maul character is they brought him back, and I love what Filoni did with the character.
Eventually.
Incredible character development with Maul, but yeah, it never made sense to bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor old Force Ghost Qui-Gon, still hanging around there somewhere.
Well, yeah, I think Qui-Gon probably had to lay there for a little bit before anybody could have helped him anyway. So I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. People survive all kinds of stupid stuff. I mean, you look in real life and find people surviving with giant spikes stuck through their head. I'm not, people that take bullets to the head and walk away from it. So I'm not that, I'm not that worried about it. But yeah, Force Ghost Qui-Gon did get screwed.
Yeah, poor Qui-Gon. I mean, I guess the story needed him to die. So.
No, I mean, and that's what it's all about. It's Qui-Gon had to die. It was a literal duel of the fates,
right?
For Anakin's destiny, which destiny is an interesting topic that we're going to get pretty heavily into tonight.
Yeah,
because I think that's right now maybe the theme of this show.
Yeah, and I do think that kind of bringing up Qui-Gon, even in a ha-ha kind of way, I think Qui-Gon is still relevant to this story. I think Ahsoka is much more like Qui-Gon than anybody else in Star Wars. Really, she's not like Obi-Wan. No. And she's not like there are definitely ways that she was like Anakin, but more than anybody else, she's like Qui-Gon. She's going to do things her own way. Are you saying Qui-Gon created Vader? So I think you could say from a certain point of view, yes. Or that I think it's Qui-Gon's death.
But it's Qui-Gon's death. I mean, and Lucas and Filoni have both talked about this, that the whole duel of the fates concept is literally these two people fighting for the future of this character of Anakin. So Qui-Gon didn't create it, but by Qui-Gon losing,
right?
It occurred.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's this idea that if Qui-Gon never dies,
right,
then Anakin doesn't turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of how I've always felt about it. Not that Obi-Wan doesn't have some good qualities, but Obi-Wan is not he's not prepared for what he takes on in Anakin Skywalker.
No, he wasn't, and he knew he wasn't.
Right.
But he did it for his master.
Right.
In fact, he was totally against it.
Right.
Which you would say was a bad place to start.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. But anyway, so now that we've kind of laid some Jedi groundwork onto the Jedi or not so Jedi topic of this particular
so
show.
there's a lot going on, and I do think this one is doing something that's needed to happen for a while. Not that Filoni hasn't done some of it, and the video games have actually, even going all the way back to Knights of the Old Republic, have probably done more for this than anything else, which is expanding who our Force users are in the galaxy. Because I think people are too quick to forget. It's like, oh, a Force user, are they a Jedi or a Sith?
Right.
It's like, those are religions.
Right.
It's like, are those Baptists or Methodists? It's like, no, they're Catholics.
Right.
Not and that's the thing, because
which looks the same from the outside.
Right. But we are dealing with, I think that's the analogy, because I think what we're starting to deal with is older forms of Force use.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we see exhibited by the
Greek Orthodox.
Well, the Night Sisters. We have the Night Sisters, and I think that what we're hinting at is that the way they're using the Force is an older, more ancient way of using the Force.
More primal, maybe.
Yeah.
In some ways. Yeah, lots of dealing with other religions. I think that...
Yeah, which is going to work. We're working on a big episode coming up that's going to pretty much just revolve pretty heavily around the religion of, well, it's going to start with Star Wars, which is why we're going to do it on Coruscant Radio, but the idea of clear-cut good versus evil and its current place in modern storytelling. Because the push is to push everything away, kind of the postmodern concept that has infiltrated a lot of culture today is this idea that, nothing's really bad and nothing's really good. It's all all the same. It's gray.
Yeah.
That's the idea that has really overwhelmed modern culture.
Wow. Nick's composing over here. You gonna send that to Cam and get us a new theme?
Good.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see. You got a question here. By the way, speaking of KOTOR, do you think it could be the Rakata area of space that Thrawn is in? We're going to touch on that in a minute. Since I have notes, I'm going to try to stay at least partially in order. But yes, I think I don't know. I think I wrote down 5 or maybe even 6 different races that we know that we could be dealing with. And then some of them I don't really think it is, but I think they're worth mentioning. Kind of as we deal with things outside of our known galaxy.
Right.
So where were we before I took that question? Oh, I just wanted to ask, what did you think? We have some brand new characters. We have some characters that we've known, but they've got new actors portraying.
Right.
And then we've got a couple of characters that are returning from animation, actually carried over by their original voice actors.
Not many.
No, but Hu Yang, who's playing a pretty big role in this, which is kind of surprising to me, is playing
Did David Tennant always voice Hu Yang?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So David Tennant, I don't know who it was I saw. It might have even been Nick. If it's not, then it should have been. But somebody said, forgive me if I refer to him as Dr. Hu Yang. Yeah.
That's great.
But him and Clancy Brown, who's now got 2 live action Star Wars characters.
Clancy Brown is
Azadi.
Okay.
He's now Ryder Azadi. Played by Clancy Brown. He also played the Deveronian in season, I guess season 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
So it's cool seeing him in there. He's a fun actor. But it was cool to see him as Ryder Azadi, because honestly, I don't know who else you would have brought in to play it. I mean, they designed the character on Clancy Brown. Well, what did you think? So our characters that got new actors, so that we haven't seen before, that's going to be Hera and Sabine and Ezra.
Yeah. And I thought now we really only got a hologram of Ezra.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna be honest. I don't know how much Ezra we're getting in this.
Yeah. So
I think what this is, we got to remember, this is a setup for a movie.
Right. So the weird thing about Ezra was, I feel like the hologram's supposed to be like several years old.
I think
he looks too old in that hologram, I think. Well, but I mean, that's just a little bit of a nitpick.
I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe, but it's also the challenge of moving him from animation to live action, and you got this actor. So unless you're going to go hire multiple actors or spend the money to de-age somebody, or you know, and the thing is, these characters, he was a kid when they found him, but he never aged in the cartoon. So,
and he got taller.
I mean, they changed hair.
Yeah.
But like, there was no, I mean, so I don't know how much, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I'll certainly see the argument for it. We also didn't get a real good, clear look.
I mean, that's true. I mean, it's a hologram, so it's only ever going to be so clear. I did really think that the portrayals for Hera and Sabine were excellent. I really thought they did a good job. It didn't throw me, the transition between the live action characters and the animated characters and the live action characters didn't throw me.
So Hera was the one I was skeptical of.
Mm-hmm.
The casting for Sabine is picture perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Ubaldo, thank you for joining us in the chat over here. Pretty good crowd coming through tonight.
Yeah.
So I think that I didn't have any doubts, and I had kind of heard that she was kind of show stealer.
Yeah.
And so far she's been very good. I think she's been a very interesting character. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead did a fantastic job with Hera.
Yeah.
Hera looks like Hera. It seems like Hera, and of course, you know, and it really, once you got to deal with her dealing with Chopper, it felt like Hera.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love how because she was always kind of the mom of the group, but she's grown even more, and we didn't have to see it to feel that she's really, because she's a general now. Like she has grown, and
she has real authority. She doesn't.
She carries it. She carries the weight of authority well.
Yeah.
No, After the Weekend has joined us in the chat. I'm not sure they've ever joined us in the chat either. So thanks for popping in. But yeah, so I like the two characters. Ezra, we don't know that much about. We'll find out at some point. I'm still skeptical of how much. I saw somebody say, I think it was Amanda, said that Ezra will be in episode 5 or 6. Yeah, I don't think we get to Ezra too quick. I think that's correct. I don't think we're going to get there super fast. And I don't want to. I don't want them to rush. One of the things I love about this show is how deliberate it is. It's taking its time and telling its story, where really with Marvel and Star Wars stuff, I feel like one of the biggest problems in both the way they're edited and probably the way they're written is that we're just rushing from story point to story point. And I love how we're spending the time to look at the scenery, to see. I mean, we're getting, I mean, the big shots, the wide shots were awesome. The technology with the volume, I don't know how much of it's volume and how much of it is something else, but it feels, obviously, if that's what it is, they've moved it to a bigger stage. It's bigger. It's grown. But you know, bringing Lothal to life, I mean, it's the cartoon come to life.
Yeah, which isn't, you know, that it doesn't always work out so well, but it seems to be really working well here.
Yeah.
So far. So. See, opportunity missed.
Yep. I'll have to try to figure out who it was that said that. So new characters. The characters I'm particularly excited about for this series. I mean, I'm excited about all of our characters, but these are big ones. Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati.
Right.
The Shin Hati character, great screen presence.
Yes.
Well, they both do.
Yeah.
They really just have a presence and kind of dominate the screen when they're on it.
And you know, it's not always easy. I mean, especially for a fairly physically unimposing little blonde woman. That's not the sort of character that people are like, intimidating.
Right.
And
I don't even
it's
think
like if I bounce onto nobody's going to be like, "Ooh, she looks scary." Like no matter how much
I don't even know that it's just
glare.
intimidating. Is she just kind of carries an air of power, and it's and it's not. We've just let her be that character too, and it's one of the things. And I know this is the big, big argument that people get into is, the strong female character. Like so far, she's a strong female character. I think the way they should be done. Like we didn't have to like make any like pointed gestures of, and say out loud, "Oh, she's a strong, powerful woman." Like we didn't do that. We just let her be cool.
So far, the show's done.
Well,
really
Filoni's
nice
never really been guilty of that kind of stuff. And Filoni's done, for all the trying that other people have done to put strong female characters in Star Wars, Filoni's been doing it for years.
I always feel a little talked down to when they're like, "See, this woman's impressive." I'm like, what, 'cause we're too dumb to tell? I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And that's what we've said all along is if you have to say, this character is this thing, then maybe you didn't portray it well.
It's like I always feel like characters are like, she's so beautiful. And it's like, she's usually just not. You just have to be like, okay, like that's the story. She's so beautiful. Carry on,
Right.
So I prefer to show and not tell.
So we're going to get into some kind of like religious themes and themes of destiny, but we don't know exactly what these two characters are yet, right? So we got Filoni a few weeks or a couple months ago talking about the orange lightsabers.
Okay.
And so basically he was talking about when the original movies came out, Vader's lightsaber would kind of pulse between a red and an orangish red.
Interesting.
And that it was a way specifically of kind of communicating specifically to kids of giving this idea there's something different. It's changing. It's not quite red. And so that's what Filoni's trying to communicate here is that these aren't just Sith. They're not just pure evil. They're not, this isn't the new Palpatine. This is something different.
Right.
And that maybe their fate's not decided yet.
They really just feel like mercenaries to me more than
that's 100% what they are at this point. But although they're clearly working towards a goal, they're working with Morgan Elsbeth, but they're after power. I mean, he already says that, and what that means, we don't know. Right. And it may be that what he thinks he's going to find isn't what he thinks he's going to find.
Yeah. That's
but I find that the names now, of course, this might just be because Filoni really likes wolves.
Right.
But the last names of the characters is Skull and Hathi. Skull and Hathi are from Norse mythology. They're two wolves. They're the sons of Fenrir, the wolf who will consume the world.
Who is in turn the son of Loki, right?
Yes. But the wolf that will consume the world at Ragnarok. Well, so these two wolves in Norse mythology, they chase the sun and they chase the moon through the sky every day. And but it's just endless. They can't catch them. Right. But at Ragnarok, they will finally catch the sun and moon snuffing out light. So, I'm not sure.
How much should we read into this?
Well, but if it was anybody else, I would say, oh, it's just names. But it's Filoni. And I don't think it's totally accurate. Not that I think we're going to see light snuffed out, but maybe that's their purpose. Maybe that's their intent.
Their plan, their scheme.
So yeah, the two wolves is, like I said, I might be reading too much into it. It might just be because Filoni really likes wolves.
Yeah. I do feel like we have a really interesting dichotomy of not a Jedi going on between Ahsoka.
Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to ask what you think about that. So we're kind of getting, it's obviously an echo of Ahsoka's "I am no Jedi."
Right.
And we're So he announces we are no Jedi. We're definitely meant to tie those two things together.
Yeah.
But to what point? What do you think the point is? I mean, I have ideas, but I want to hear yours.
I mean, I feel like kind of what they're really throwing out there is that, like, we clearly know what a Jedi is, right? We know what a Jedi believes, we know what a Jedi stands for, we know what a Jedi does most specifically, because Ahsoka still believes and stands for most of those things, but she doesn't do all of the Jedi things anymore.
Well, and she doesn't, and we also, so there's two things, and we'll go ahead and touch on this, because Daniel, who used to be on the show, I had a long conversation with him yesterday on the phone, and if I'd recorded it, it would have been a full-length episode of this show. But we talked about, so we have the scene, we close episode 2 on the scene of Ahsoka picking Sabine up from Lothal.
Right.
That is a mirror image of the final scene from Rebels.
Even some of the like same shots and everything.
No, it's almost identical.
Yeah.
To the point where we were having a conversation of, is it the same scene or is it a starting over? Like we started here once, it didn't go real good.
Right.
And now we're starting over from this.
I like that a little better, honestly.
I do too. And I think we end Rebels on this really hopeful note. We have Ahsoka's sort of Gandalf the White moment. So she comes back, she's dressed all in the white robes, carrying the staff. As everybody knows, Filoni's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So that was very much intentionally sort of a Gandalf. He had even done drawings of Ahsoka and Gandalf together.
Yeah.
So this time I'm feeling like Ahsoka has lost a lot of hope. I think that was a really hopeful moment, and that's what she represents there. But when she comes back this time, she's in the dull brown robes. And so I don't think it's the same scene. I think it's just a new beginning to this story. It's like, it didn't work, we're going to try again.
Yeah. But I do think, in spite of the fact that she's older and she's lost some of her optimism, I think that fundamentally she still believes like a Jedi. And I think that I'm not a Jedi means I don't follow the rituals.
She does, but maybe it's starting.
She believes in the light side.
She does, but maybe she's drifting a little bit from what the Jedi are.
And that's possible.
Because we see the moment where she tells Hu Yang that, how she got the information from Morgan Elsbeth. And she's, basically not the way a Jedi would have done it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the conversation. Hello, Nicole. Thanks for joining us. But I think that's the conversation with the two sides of I'm not a Jedi and we are no Jedi, is that they've been willing to go farther than her so far.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a challenge of, if I don't stop and turn around, then this is where I risk going.
You think, because I kind of view them as a little more of a contrast. Like they're the dark side of not a Jedi. She's the light side of not a Jedi.
Right. But I think that's the threat, right? Like,
well, I mean, that's always a threat.
If you leave and then you continue to drift from your beliefs, they've just drifted. Baylan has just drifted a little further than Ahsoka.
I mean, that's probably fair.
And so,
although one does wonder if he doesn't really seem to believe in anything anymore. Ahsoka believes still in freedom. She believes in.
No, but I would say that, but like they're aligning themselves with, the Night Sisters are decidedly a user of the dark side magic of the Force.
Yeah.
He's looking for Thrawn. He's aligned himself more with the Empire. He's not a Sith. He's not a religious zealot.
Yeah.
But he has moved. I think it's an indication of how far from the Order he's moved. And yes, I don't think he's a Jedi or a Sith. I'm not saying, and I think that's important to what we're talking about. But we're seeing some people who, the Night Sisters. There's not many left.
Right.
The
I mean,
Inquisitors. We've got an
thinking
Inquisitor. There's not many, we don't know how many of
thinking
those.
all the Night Sisters and the Inquisitors are gone. There's except that
right,
one.
but it's an echo of the Jedi, right? We flipped the script on that, and now the Jedi, should be beginning to come back, and the others disappearing. So I think that there's still Force user. He still cares. He doesn't want to kill Ahsoka.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell what he is. And
he's not killing a room full of younglings just for the heck of it.
Right.
For example.
So talking about Ahsoka and how she's not a Jedi, did you notice how she's referred to in the crawl?
I didn't know.
Former Jedi Knight, Ahsoka Tano. So I did want to touch on that real quick.
Former Jedi Knight. Did we ever see her become a Jedi Knight?
Well, we never see her knighted per se. We do. I think so. So what I have here, let's see. There are 5 parts of the Jedi trial: trial of skill, trial of courage, trials of the flesh, trial of spirit, and trial of insight. But the council had the ability to basically, instead of administering those tests, to accept a really trying mission in its place. That's what we saw happen with Kanan.
Right.
So I think it's that those moments in the last season of Clone Wars that we got to come back. I think that we're calling that her trial.
Yeah.
But I'm not, it's so we're going to have this whole thing of, her saying, whether she's a Jedi or not.
Yeah.
She was never knighted. We never saw it. I don't think that matters. I think that Filoni's not an idiot. Filoni did that on purpose. I mean, this is his character.
But I mean, I think that it's also significant that it's not something we see. So I wonder why.
There are several things so far in this show that we haven't seen.
Right.
And I think we will, because that's the way Filoni tells stories.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to get there. But I'm fine with not knowing right now. But
but also former Jedi Knight.
Well, she's no Jedi, so she's
but she had already said she was no Jedi whenever she left the Order.
Yeah. So but she didn't initially say that when she left the Order.
Okay. Oh, because you said that in Rebels. That's the Rebels line. Okay.
Yeah, that takes place a while later.
Yeah.
So she has a lot going on before that moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out.
So this is an interesting question. You think there's any chance we see any interaction with Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan?
I don't think so. Not in this series.
I mean, I would love to see her interact with Obi-Wan just because they have so much history.
If I want to see her interact with a Force Ghost, that's not the one I want to see her interact with.
You want to see her interact with Anakin. That's true.
Whose voice we have heard in the trailers.
Yeah, that's true. That I would watch.
So whether we see him or she's just remembering what he said, in that moment, I think that, the fact that they did that at all.
Yeah.
So, I think that if we're going to see a Force Ghost, I think it's Anakin. I think that's the one that makes the most sense here. Obviously, Qui-Gon doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Honestly, I think the two that make the most, Obi-Wan would be cool.
Yeah.
Because of hers and Obi-Wan's relationship.
I kind of like to see her and Obi-Wan and Anakin just all hash it out. I feel like they have a lot of baggage.
So the two that I think are most likely to occur, if we were to get a Force Ghost, I would almost bet on Anakin and or Yoda. She's seen Yoda before.
Yeah, it's true.
And we still don't know. I mean, Ahsoka's got we've gotten indications that her destiny is one of real importance. The Morai that follows her around.
Yeah.
So real quick, let's see. We'll run through the sort of the kind of the religious stuff. So part of what we've done we kicked off episode 2 with the title "Toil and Trouble,"
right,
which is Shakespeare.
Double.
And so we start off that we have the 3 witches from that. Well, those 3 witches are really based on the witches from Greek mythology.
Yes,
the Fates,
right,
or the Morai. There's only one letter difference in between Morai and then the Morai that follows Ahsoka around. So I think that we're tying some things. I think it's intentional. I think we're tying things together. So the Morai or the Fates in I'm sorry, I got to read in the chat. So the Morai in Greek mythology are the literal personification of destiny, which is something we've already talked about. It's something that's really, really. sorry, the bot got you there, Nicole.
Oh no! Did you send too many hearts? Drat you and those dadgum colored hearts.
So the literal personification of destiny is not just that they're the personification of destiny, that their job, these 3 witches in Greek mythology, their literal job is to make sure that everyone follows their destiny.
Right.
To keep them from straying away from it.
Right. Keep them on the path, the
which
preordained.
Is why I think it's really interesting that this Morai follows Ahsoka.
Yeah. And there are 3 witches in that temple when she at the very beginning.
It's not just statues. There, like so witches partially because of the Fates are traditionally always shown in groups of 3.
Yeah.
So 3 there. The Zepho temple from Jedi Fallen Order. They appear in groups of 3. In the murals. The Zepho.
Okay.
The Force gods appear in a group of 3.
Yeah.
So we're really leaning hard into this number 3.
I mean, and not to mention like in real world religions, you've got your Christian Trinity, you've got your lots of traditional pagan, goddess, maiden, mother, crone kind of groupings. So it's a really, really familiar religious iconography, the groups of 3.
Yeah. So we're definitely doing a lot with the 3 there. And then, speaking, when we talk about destiny, we actually had an episode of Clone Wars called Destiny, which is the one where Yoda goes to a world there's like these, I don't remember what they called them. They're not witches, but there's 5, not 3. But there was always the idea there was always the idea that they were the Fates.
Yeah, with the one of them with the masks.
Well, they have the masks, and when Yoda asks to remove the mask or removes the mask from one at the end, it disappears because they don't have bodies; they just exist within the Force.
Yeah,
that planet that he went to was like a wellspring of the Force, where a source of midichlorians. So
something like that. It was very weird.
Yeah, but it's just. We're still like the intention of those characters that they were kind of the Fates,
right?
Even though they were 5,
right? The Wills of the Force.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on just religiously.
Absolutely.
So I don't even know. I mean, we have thrown out what do you think about the portal? Or it's not a portal. We get this map, we go to this temple, and we're going to get into in a second about who built that temple. And I don't think I'm going to make it through all my notes, so we may have to do a spillover episode at some point. But the little, they put the map, the orb on this pillar. Those orbs look a lot like the pillars from Jedi Fallen Order as well. They're just they're way bigger.
Yeah.
But that's going to lead into who I think's at the other end.
It looked a lot like the map looks a lot like pictures I saw from the Old Republic games too. The Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, so
a lot less rendered, obviously, in the
right. And Filoni likes some KOTOR. So he does bring stuff in from there, which is why I think that the strong possibility, we're going to talk about the Rakatan and the Zepho, and to who it might be, or it could be a combination of those or something. We're going to find out,
or even a temple that was built by one group and utilized by others. There's lots of examples of kind of holy sites being repurposed.
Yeah. So kind of as we kind of move away from the religious, or before we do, I'm glad that they're kind of expanding into non-Force. Filoni really built, just like he did with the Mandalorians, he built most of the lore for the Night Sisters. They obviously go all the way back to the novels. I think we pick on maybe the courtship of Princess Leia, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I think that's who winds up kind of being the Night Sister. I'm not sure. I'm a little old. I hadn't read that in 30 years.
A minute.
I don't think it's been 30, but over 20.
Probably closer to 30. Who's counting?
So when they're opening this up, and she says that Thrawn is calling to me across time and space. Someone pointed out that that's an interesting inversion. We don't normally say time and space. We normally say space and time.
Yeah, it's true.
And so what do we think? The thing that lines up with that column before it shows the way to this other galaxy has a wheel with the Purgle on it, rather than like the one into the
wolves,
the World Between Worlds with the wolves on it. So is it? Filoni had talked about not necessarily wanting to continue opening that door. It's why he destroyed it. Right. So I don't know that there's a lot of speculation about the World Between Worlds here. And I'm not sure if that's where we're going or if it's literally just his way of showing like a doorway.
It could be, one of the kids is like, it looks like a Stargate, So, is there any reason that it can't be some kind of wormhole?
No, it could be. And I don't have the name of the race. I couldn't find it. I couldn't remember it and I couldn't find it. Another race from the books or the comics that was tied to the Night Sisters. They lived on Dathomir. And they basically built these gateways to other worlds.
Okay.
Stargates.
Yeah.
So it may very well be that that's the detail we're going with, because those people were also from Dathomir.
And that really does work as a completely different, other than hyperspace, kind of option. It's
right. But we have Morgan Elsbeth, who understands the magic of the Night Sisters, preparing to use hyperspace to get there.
Right.
They've built a massive hyperspace ring.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe maybe they take the ship there, and maybe Ahsoka gets there by being able to understand the doorway. I don't really know. But it's interesting. There's a lot of really cool symbolism there.
Mm-hmm.
The last bit of symbolism I want to talk about real quick is the final map. And this is going to lead us into talking about who built this second temple. The first temple was Night Sisters. It's very old, probably at least 1,000 years prior to where we're at.
Right.
But it was a Night Sister temple. The second one, we don't know who built it. The Night Sisters have an understanding of who it was, but we don't.
Right.
So we get a map for our final credits, our credit roll.
Yeah.
They did not do it in Arabish. So the lettering on the map is not in Arabish, which makes it a little bit harder to decipher. Because if it'd done in Arabish, we'd have already deciphered what all of it meant, or all the planets were. But it is sort of remarkably similar to the language of the Sith, the Ur-Katat.
Okay.
Which is a runic language that we don't really have a great translation for.
Right.
But it's very similar to the Sith language.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
So kind of as we get into who it was. So I'll run through these. The first one that comes up, if you're a expanded universe fan, is going to be the Yuzong Vong. That is this race that came from another galaxy. They were galactical. They traveled from galaxy to galaxy, basically just wiping out the populations. They don't exist within the Force. Like they can still be attacked with the Force and all that, but they don't exist. They have no presence, so the Jedi can't sense them through the Force. I don't believe we're going back to the Yuzong Vong.
They were very well received, were they?
It's kind of 50-50, I'd say. There were some good books in that era, but I feel like maybe that was an era where the novel started to fall off a little bit. Was around that era. All the best novels preceded that. Michelle, thanks for hopping in and checking it out. But so that's the first one. I don't think it's them, but we do know that they're extragalactical travelers. In fact, they're one of the only ones on the list that we know a whole lot about them traveling between galaxies.
Okay.
The next one is the Rakatan, who were from the dark. What were they originally from? They might have originally been from the Knights of the Old Republic games.
Okay.
They were name dropped in Andor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So now they're from the unknown regions, which kind of opens this door of what are the unknown regions, right?
I mean, the Chiss are in the unknown regions, right?
Right, but we haven't really defined it. Like, are they I've always assumed they're the unknown regions of this galaxy.
Right.
Are they that, or are they the space between galaxies?
I mean, I always assumed it was like, the Europeans referred to the Americas as the New World. It was like out there.
Yeah, see, and that's where I'm at. I think that it's the outer reaches of the known Star Wars galaxy, simply because the distance of traveling between galaxies is immense.
Yeah,
and we see what special preparations Morgan Elsbeth is making to make that journey. We haven't seen anybody else do anything close to that.
The only thing we know is that we have seen in canon traveling between galaxies is the Purgle, right?
Yeah, and we haven't really followed them on the journey.
We
know that's what they do.
We think.
Yeah.
We assume. Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep running through them because we're gonna run out of time here. The next one is the Grisk. The Grisk. I don't know if the Grisk were introduced prior to. Somebody in the chat might. I've quit reading the books. I just can't do it anymore. Now the Thrawn books I'm reading.
Yeah.
If Timothy Zahn writes a Star Wars book, I'm going to read it. But I've quit reading all the other books. I don't really know.
Are the Grisk kind of the anti-Chiss?
Yeah, that's the enemy of the Chiss in their own home galaxy.
Okay.
So the idea is that Thrawn may be part of the reason that he came and joined the Empire was to try to find a way and maybe even allies in fighting the. Yeah, Michelle, there's a handful of writers that if they wrote a Star Wars book, I would buy it immediately.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with.
Well, it's not just a lot to keep up with. They've gotten so bad.
Yeah, I have enjoyed some of them, but
not only have they gotten bad, like I started reading Star Wars books in 91 when the first Star Wars book came out. Nobody ever had to check to see so I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever had to stop to check to make sure what I was reading was okay because it was Star Wars.
Right.
But we're in a situation now with some of these books and the people that are writing them, glorified fan fiction writers who I have to read the books to make sure they're okay for my kids to read. And I'm just not into that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read them. I'm not enjoying them. As long as I was enjoying them, I didn't mind doing that, but the books just aren't good.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, I'm out of shelf space.
Yeah.
And
we don't have room for more shelves.
If they were good, I would make room, even if I had to put them in boxes. But I don't
put bookshelves on the ceiling.
That would be cool if we had like anti-grav bookshelves. That's how I'm going to make my $1 million is anti-grav bookshelves.
The homeschooling moms everywhere. You'll be their new hero.
So the Grisk, this is a big one. So these next two are the big ones that I'm going to push as probably the most likely candidates are the Zepho.
Yeah.
Which we see appear in Jedi Fallen Order.
Mm-hmm.
They fit the bill. They're ancient. They fell to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, most of them died off, and the survivors left for some unknown. That they called it the Great Unknown. That they left for the Great Unknown. So we don't know where they went.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that the Zepho are a really, really strong candidate.
Mm-hmm.
We see some things that look like Force magic, which is MAJICK is Force magic. It's a dark side magic. It's a more ancient primal use. So we see a little of that in Jedi Fallen Order. We're seeing that with the Night Sisters. So we're kind of looking for someone that's kind of like a it's not that the Night Sisters are descended from them, but maybe ideologically.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then the other one that's a big option here, and I already mentioned them because of some of the lettering on the maps, is the Sith. And it could be that the Sith, the Zepho, the Rakatan, and some of these are more closely tied together as primal, primitive dark side users than we know.
Yeah.
Let's see. DJ said, only place we see Night Sisters too. Yeah, when I say Sith, I'm talking the race, not the religious order, but rather the ancient Sith, who we don't really know if they even exist anymore. The only catch is that in what we know so far about the Sith, that they're from the known galaxy.
Okay. Is that been established in current canon, or is that just...
Couldn't tell you. There's a lot of blurred lines for me between what's canon and what's not, because I read basically everything expanded universe, and so there's a lot of areas where like I have to go look to see which version is actually canon.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they couldn't have left for another galaxy.
Yeah.
The other option is just something totally new,
which is always interesting.
It's interesting, but
I mean, although we have a lot of options, do we really need something totally new? This would be a tie into the Dawn of the Jedi movie.
Yeah, actually I do. I think that there's a really, really strong chance that Filoni has been tasked with building
a backstory
for what we're about to do. And I honestly don't trust anybody else as much as I trust Filoni to do that. If anything, he's really, really good at building foundations. As I've said many, many times, he's very Tolkien-esque in his world building. And so I'm really, really hoping that he's going to give us something. I don't think it's going to be directly tied in, but I think it's going to be related.
Yeah.
What does God need with a starship?
Yeah. I mean, my question stands.
So we're going to need to wrap up here pretty quick. So it means, is there anything else? We'll just kind of skip the notes for a minute. What else jumps out to you about the story? What did you enjoy? There are a lot of story points. We didn't really get into a lot of the story points. I love the way they reintroduced Sabine. I even like the rock music that Connor helped do. I loved opening with a crawl. I know people were iffy on the crawl because it's not the traditional crawl. It's not angled away. It's not flying away into space. It's scrolling up and it's red. The thing about the red is that it's written just like a Star Wars crawl. I kind of wish it had been flying off at an angle into space.
Yeah.
But I think the red was meant to, so all of the titles for the final season of Clone Wars were that red, that color. That's red. Interesting. So I think that was meant to be our connection there.
Yeah.
Why they chose to have it scroll up instead of away. Right. Kevin Connor's music is fantastic. Kevin Connor should be scoring almost every Star Wars project. I mean, yeah, if you want to do something real different, like they did with The Mandalorian, you might need somebody else. But if you want a true Star Wars sound, Kevin Connor's your man. He's creating all this really beautiful new music, but he kind of weaves.
It feels like Star Wars.
It feels like Star Wars, but if you really listen, you kind of hear little bits of
established themes.
He
kind of pulls like smaller leitmotifs from established themes and kind of makes them
or even pulls them and changes them a little bit.
Yes.
When we first meet Balin's scene where he's going through and basically having his Vader hallway scene is that music's really cool, but did something that John Williams doesn't do and use some really heavy piano notes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the Imperial March, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it kind of becomes its own brand new thing.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the way they're using Hu Yang and Hera to kind of push Ahsoka and Sabine to do the right thing.
Right. They kind of turned it into Jiminy Cricket collectively there.
Yeah. We got E-Wing fighters, which are from the Dark Empire comic books. We hadn't seen E-Wing fighters in years and years. I loved that little detail. Hopefully we'll see more E-Wings. And I love that the pilots on Lothal are continuing to use the call sign Spectre.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a really nice introduction there. I was glad to go back to Corellia. Corellia is a huge place in the Star Wars universe for story points.
Yep.
But we never go there. We went there in Solo, but that's the only time we've ever really gone there. It's been a huge one in the literature. Let's see, Andrew, when do you think Thrawn will show up? I think Thrawn's going to show up right at the end, maybe the last couple episodes. I don't think Thrawn's going to play an enormous role in this. I think Balin and Shin and our kind of unknown.
That's probably true. I did want to see him though.
Oh, what's the other guy's name? Merrick. I think those are going to be our primary villains. Morgan Elsbeth. I think they're our villains for this show. I think Thrawn is think of Thrawn as Thanos right now. He's kind of just looming large in the background. You know, he's out there, but he's not your problem yet.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get plenty of Thrawn eventually, but
we are. Well, I think that we're setting up the movie, and Thrawn will be the big bad in that movie.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need him to be the big bad here. I think we need to give him a chance to see why he's going to be the big bad later.
Which is fine. But again, I like him.
The sooner we see, I mean, I can't wait. Thrawn is one of the, is a fantastic character. I definitely want to see more. Let's see, just scroll down real quick because I know we got to wrap up because DJ
is going on.
The message from Ezra. Well, we talked about the message from Ezra, right?
Yes.
Cool new planets, Arcana and Cetos. It was cool seeing the Ada class shuttles, the Jedi Ambassador shuttles. That was a cool callback. Lothcat or Grogu? Marisha, which one you choosing?
Oh, Grogu. I mean,
I'll still take Grogu, but I will say Absolutely, because we did see a Loth cat in one of the other live action shows, maybe Mandalorian, and it was all CGI, which is fine. I mean, sometimes you got to do that stuff like that. This look, I mean, I guess in some ways the CGI one might have looked almost like something more real, but this one has that really cool Star Warsy, like, is it CGI? It's like half CGI and half puppet.
I kind of wondered if it was a real cat that they had just CGI'd up, moved like a cat.
I don't know. I can't wait to see it, but I'm betting it was built similar to the way Grogu was built.
Yeah, probably.
It's just less. It doesn't have to be as complicated.
Yeah.
But there was a mix of CGI with it, so I can't wait to see how they did that. Let's see. The pathway to Paradia.
Paradia,
right?
Did they say Paradia?
I think so. I'll correct it next week if I was wrong, but
I will make sure to.
I'm pretty sure it's the pathway to Paradia, which
fair.
Balin just kind of like it's a myth. It's an old wives' tale. It's a kid's story.
It's like fae, in the old stories of, the fairies are going to steal your baby and you'll get lost in fairyland.
Just cool, like nostalgia things. Seeing Home 1 was very, very cool. We have, I don't know that we've seen Home 1 since Return of the Jedi. I don't think we ever saw Home 1 in any of the animated stuff.
Yeah.
Plus seeing it in live action, it's just so much cooler. I love the animated stuff, but I'm still going to prefer live action most of the time. I mean, obviously some of our live action hasn't been better than Clone Wars or Rebels, but I want to know, has something happened to the ghost? Because we've only seen Hera flying the Phantom.
Yeah, it does beg the question.
Do you think we will see Hera's son?
I actually was a little surprised that we have not seen him yet.
I'm not sure how many episodes Hera's actually in, to be honest.
Yeah.
We might actually already be done with Hera.
Yeah. I think we see him before the show's over because I think Sabine wants to see him.
Oh, y'all, that was not what I thought I was about to drink. I forgot that was carbonated. I thought it was just water.
That's epic. That's excellent.
Nick, Ryder was a really, really nice touch there. But I think that's kind of the end of my notes. So do you have anything else?
No, I mean,
there were lots of story points. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, it's hard to cover 2 episodes in an hour.
Yeah.
And so we kind of did our best, but I don't want to, yes, the carbonated water definitely got me.
Yeah. The good old thought it was water in its Sprite.
Right.
Yeah. No, but I wanted this show to be good. I wanted to like it the first time I saw it. And one of the kids was asking me about how I felt about it. The older one who started to get perceptive on me, y'all. She was like, Mom, it was just beautiful. It was just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's really cool for them too. And we kind of talked about it before. Like, I mean, we all watched Rebels, but we watched Rebels as adults.
Right.
But she's 13. She literally grew up
watching Rebels.
With Rebels. And so for her, seeing something come to life that she grew up watching as a cartoon is a whole different thing.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, and Andrew was real excited about those Corellian shipyards.
Oh, I couldn't have been more excited. I was so excited to see the Corellian shipyards. I want to know, has anybody, I don't know if anybody in the chat is aware. So Hera's ship, which is really cool. We've seen very little of it. It's a T6 shuttle. It's called 1974.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's not a reference to 1974, but I don't know what the reference
explanation is. Interesting. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or maybe we'll just get in a book somewhere.
Who knows at this point. But Super excited about it. Really enjoyed the show. This felt, and I will say this, and I actually, Daniel was, like I said, I spoke to Daniel yesterday, who I'm still trying to talk into coming back to the show if he can find time. But he actually said this ahead of me, but I fully agree with it. 2 episodes in, if you take the first 2 episodes of any other series, including The Mandalorian, this is the best first 2 episodes of any Star Wars series.
That's reasonable.
Like,
yeah, the best, like there's no topping that little baby.
I kind of wondered if that might be it.
Oh, funny. Okay. That works. Like there's no the little hand coming up at the end of the first episode of The Mandalorian. Like that's really hard to top. But
well, that wasn't at the end of the first episode though, was it?
Wasn't it?
When he finds Grogu?
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
It's been a minute. But yeah, it's really, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I haven't been happy with everything I've seen Star Wars put on TV in the past few years.
So if we take Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett, and we know that they had cool, big Star Wars moments. Mm-hmm. There are high moments in those shows.
Yeah.
But overall, they're real mediocre.
Yeah.
And some of it's just bad.
And man, I just wanted Kenobi to be the best thing. I'm still miffed about that.
Yeah. So, Mandalorian, I love Mandalorian. Mandalorian season 1 and 2 is still, I mean, at this point, I'm not going to judge this whole series till I see it. At this point, the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are my favorite Star Wars TV. I love Mandalorian season 3. But I honestly still think they should have just called it, given it a different name, because it really was a different show.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the disappointment people had is this is not the same show.
Right.
But it's got the same name. Right. So a lot of what happens in Mandalorian season 3 is fine story-wise. It's just, it was different.
Different. Yeah, that's true. But I'm excited about it. I'm optimistic. I'm waiting for next week.
I feel like this show combines more of the elements that comprised the original Star Wars than anything that's been done since Disney bought it.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Like Rogue One's an amazing movie. It's in my top, it's my 4th favorite movie. It might be my 3rd on any given day. I love Rogue One, but it hones in on a really specific note of part of what makes Star Wars Star Wars. It's just a war movie.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, it's a Western that they kind of slowly expanded to include more Star Warsy stuff. But this one, it encompasses so many of the elements that make Star Wars Star Wars.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. And I think, I know a lot of people, saying, not that much happened, but I think a lot of people forget they had to introduce these characters to a new audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's despite the fact that Clone Wars and Rebels were wildly popular shows, the percentage of people who actually watched them is still pretty low.
Yeah.
So I feel like they did a good job of kind of hitting a button. It's a new starting point for these characters. This isn't it's a continuation of their stories, but it's not directly a continuation of Rebels. We're picking up at a new point on a new adventure.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yep.
I just can't believe we're already a quarter of the way through it.
I know. Alas.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna get out of here and we're gonna go eat dinner before we have to record an episode later. So DJ has, if he hasn't gone live yet, he's about to over on his channel. And so definitely, if you got time, go check that out.
Yes, absolutely. It'll also talking to Ahsoka, right?
I believe so.
I think he's got a little bit of a different take than us.
I think so. But I like DJ's takes.
Yeah.
So DJ will have a different take, but he'll still be fair.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear different takes.
No, we like different takes. We have people with different takes on our show all the time.
It's true. Keeps things interesting. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for coming.
Yeah,
it was
great,
a great
great
chat.
Lots of people in the chat that we haven't seen in here before. So thank you all for stopping by. And we're going to get out of here. And before we go, I know y'all want to. Marisha doesn't want me to have any fun. She's just sitting here shaking her head at me. So y'all have a good night, and may the Force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.